You know, there's so much going on internationally. We need you now more than ever.
Yes, I agree with you that we have a rapidly uh, a rapidly evolving, or rather a rapidly escalating situation in the world. And from the perspective of Islam, and of course, again, Islamic eschatology, we would have a certain perspective to bring, which might be of some benefit for analysts to incorporate in their analysis. I believe that Zionist um, the Zionist created film on the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was released at the time when it was released for a certain specific purpose. I noticed that there is an unhappy coincidence every 4 years. That the last time, 4 years ago, it was in early September that something happened in the banking system, which sank the presidential campaign of John McCain and caused Barack Obama to take off on an unstoppable surge to victory. It was early September. And I noticed again in early September, coincidentally, at the time of the anniversary of 9/11, coincidentally, that something has happened which threatens to sink Obama's presidential campaign and cause Romney to perhaps get the kind of surge that he needs that will take him to victory. Appearance, therefore, is that there are forces at work using an act of, what is it called, video terrorism, or is it movie terrorism?
A psyop.
To achieve through elections what has not so far been achieved on the battlefield. The American administration and the American armed forces have so far refused to be party to an attack on Iran, refused to be a party to an attack on Syria, refused to be a party to an attack on Pakistan. None of these have occurred so far. The reason why the U.S. armed forces do not want to do it, because they know that such attacks are going to lead to world war. Taking on Russia and taking on China is not the same thing as taking on Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. No. Lots and lots and lots of Americans are going to die in a war with Russia. Lots of American cities are going to be destroyed in a war with Russia. And a war with China is going to be an even equally horrific enterprise. And so there is a great reluctance on the part of the American armed forces, and naturally so, to attack Iran and attack Syria and attack Pakistan and risk nuclear war. But Israel usually gets others, the Zionists usually get others to wage their wars for them. And if Barack Obama will not do it, then Romney will do it. And so my reading, Morris, is that the timing of the release of the movie or the film and the consequences which have so far emerged, and they're still unfolding. They're still unfolding. I think they have the capacity to add some more fuel to the fire, as the Arab Spring showed us. I think that the implications are that we would now see Romney's presidential campaign moving forward with a surge, and Barack Obama's campaign sinking down, because the media is going to capitalize on this to impress upon the American people that Islam now constitutes a menace to the world, and that America needs a president and an administration with the kind of muscles that can deal with Islam and deal with Muslims in order to save the world from the menace of Islam. And Obama has not been able to do that, and therefore Romney's campaign will benefit from what has happened so far. My second comment is that if I am correct, then we can, I hope, safely conclude that there is not going to be any war between now and November the 4th. That Israel is not going to attack, the United States is not going to attack, that NATO is not going to attack. The status quo will remain as it is until the elections take place. After the elections take place, then I can expect sometime in December, perhaps a repeat of what happened 4 years ago in December, when Israel exploited the interim between presidents to attack Gaza, and then pulled out of that attack in order to welcome Obama on January 20th. So we can also see a repeat of that. Otherwise, I think the wars are going to start next year. The only caveat I have to give is that in the event that the movie or the film and the violent response from the world of Islam does not give a sufficient surge to Romney and does not sink Obama's presidential campaign, then they may have to bring something out of the rabbit's hat to achieve that objective. I would, however, like to take the opportunity to make a comment upon the news we have had of the killing of the American ambassador and some diplomatic staff in Libya. I am a student of Islam and international relations, and I know something about the Islamic conduct of state and of Islam and international affairs, the theory. And it is a blemish, it is something shameful from our perspective that Muslims should attack an ambassador of a foreign country who is supposed to enjoy in our territory certain amount of security guaranteed to him by the state. That if he behaves in a manner which is unacceptable to us, we'll expel him, ask him to leave. But you do not utilize the opportunity of his presence in your country to do what they did, to attack this man in his car and kill him. I want to condemn it as harshly as I possibly can, regardless of whatever he may have done, regardless of what the American government may have done, regardless of what the American armed forces may have done in Libya. The fact is, you do not act in this way with people who are ambassadors who represent foreign countries in your territories.
We are seeing a rise of this radical element, very much provoked and perhaps engineered. I believe the word is takfiri in Arabic, but what is the answer to prevent the complete extremism that we are witnessing amongst angry Muslims?
These are not angry Muslims. These are Dajjal's warriors. Dajjal the Antichrist, the false Messiah. He's also a man like the piper of Hamelin. He plays a pipe and he gets these people to dance to his tunes. And when he played his pipe in Libya, they danced to his tunes. And now he's playing his pipe in Syria, and they're dancing to his tunes in Syria. There are people who have eyes and yet cannot see. They're just like cattle, or worse than cattle. And it is to the credit of the false Messiah that he's able to recruit these people and use them to fight his wars for him. And they would like us to believe that they're waging a jihad. I say that's not a jihad. It looks more like a Yankee jihad to me. It looks more like a Zionist jihad to me. It's a phony jihad. And I reject it, and I say it has nothing to do with the religion of Islam.
Well, where does Turkey fit in, this Islamic country that is helping support these people?
I think we did mention in an earlier interview, Morris, that there has been a very long effort over a long period of time to brainwash the Turkish people who are still conscious of their religious obligations and who still hold fast to those obligations, brainwash them. That brainwashing took place through a Sufi movement. And these are the people who brought this government into power in Turkey. And this government in Turkey deceived us. We thought that it had certain credentials that were genuinely Islamic. We thought so. Certain credentials, not all. And then when the matter of the flotilla took place, we saw them standing very proudly up against Israel. But it was dust in our eyes. It was dust in our eyes. This government in Turkey is very firmly entrenched within NATO and acting on behalf of NATO in the matter of Syria. We did give a warning to them. There's a statement on my website, which I issued maybe about 2 months ago, when the Turkish aircraft was shot down in Syrian airspace or just outside of Syrian airspace, warning that there is an imminent possibility that the Turkish armed forces might launch an invasion of Syria on behalf of NATO. And that if that were to occur, the consequences would be disastrous for Turkey, because it's going to provoke civil war in Turkey. Our Prophet has prophesied, and political analysts in the Western world should now pay careful attention to what Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, has prophesied. He has prophesied the great war which is now around the corner. In Arabic it's called the Malhama. Others call it Armageddon. But it's a great war that will make the First and Second World War look like a fight over peanuts. And following that great war, he has prophesied the conquest of Constantinople. And so a Turkish attack on Syria is certainly going to provoke Turkish civil war, which eventually is going to lead to the conquest of Constantinople. And the conquest of Constantinople can make military sense only in one context, only one. And that is liberating the city from NATO control. And the liberation of the city from NATO control can have only one significant military impact, and that is opening the Bosphorus for the Russian Navy and for the navies of Eastern Europe to pass through the Bosphorus and to enter into the Mediterranean, and therefore pose a threat to Israel.
Well, there is a lot of disquiet now in Turkey. There are demonstrations against the AKP. There are intellectuals writing such articles. Even the New York Times featured it. So there is trouble being witnessed within Turkey about the policy and the trouble it has brought upon the country. May I ask you, today, of all things, John McCain, who is a hawk, is suggesting that it might be time to withdraw the troops early from Afghanistan. And there's a similar proposal in the British Parliament. So the tables have turned there. Or is this a strategic move?
This is news to me. I thought it was 2014 that Obama was planning to withdraw from Afghanistan. But when the Zionists tell me, Morris, that the sun is shining in the sky, I don't believe them. I go outside and look in the sky, and when I see the sun shining in the sky with my own eyes, only then do I believe it. So I don't believe these statements about withdrawing from Afghanistan. They are in Afghanistan because the target is Pakistan. The target is Pakistan because Pakistan possesses nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons pose the only significant threat to Israel. That threat has to be removed if Israel is to succeed the United States and become the third and last ruling state in the modern world. That's what 9/11 was all about.
And this happened on 9/11 in Libya. It's more than a coincidence. They say it was actually pre-planned. You just triggered this by mentioning 9/11. The American ambassador was murdered on 9/11 again.
This is a subject in which I don't have expertise. It's called symbolism and the occult. But we just had a seminar on September 1st and 2nd here in Malaysia. On September 1st, I conducted a seminar on an introduction to Islamic eschatology. And then on September 2nd, we had a wonderful presentation from a man named Dr. Omar Zaid, a medical doctor and a former Christian missionary who became Muslim. And he gave a presentation on symbolism and the occult. And it is clear from what he informed us, he spoke, it is clear that the Zionists do have links with the occult. And they would choose certain dates, because certain dates are aligned with the stars and so on, as in Hinduism. So too with the Zionists. So, but this is not a subject in which I have any expertise. I much prefer to look at early September as the last stop before early November.
Okay, well, you're absolutely right about the numbers. It's extraordinary. People collate them and put them on the internet between the different false flag events, Madrid, London, 9/11, and there are consistencies numerically. Well, I just worry if they're going to withdraw from Afghanistan, it might be like they withdrew from Iraq. They withdrew from Iraq and suddenly there was trouble in Syria. Are they going to tactically withdraw from Afghanistan to attack Pakistan in another manner? I'm only looking for the devil always. What will the devil do next?
I am not in a position to comment on the implications of a withdrawal from Afghanistan. I take it with a pinch of salt. I believe that the attack on Pakistan is certain to come because I don't see the possibility at all of Israel ever replacing the United States as a ruling state in the world while Pakistan or Muslims possess nuclear weapons. I don't see that possibility at all. I believe this is why 9/11 was planned and executed so that they could get their troops into Afghanistan, so that from Afghanistan they could destabilize Pakistan and eventually invade Pakistan. I think that is still on the card.
Oh yes, through Helmand, that was the whole plan, and to break Baluchistan off from Pakistan and Iran. It failed. There was too much resistance in Helmand. Sheikh Imran Hussain, I do not know what else to ask you. Is there something we have missed? There are violent protests everywhere against American embassies. 3 American embassies have been closed.
Not only American embassies, I believe French embassies as well are closing. I would like to take this opportunity to perhaps speak briefly, addressing our viewing audience, those who are Muslims and who have been writing to me and asking me for guidance. How should Muslims respond to this provocative film, which is so insulting and derogatory to our Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him? And my response is that a Muslim never acts in a haphazard, in a wild manner, simply bursting out and acting violently in a manner which looks like dancing to Dajjal's tunes. You should not be a people who can be remote controlled. When they want you to come out on the streets, they do something like this. The manner in which Muslims should respond to these provocative acts which are taking place from the Zionist world is to vent their anger and their rage and their indignation on the governments which control the Muslims around the world, which are all either sitting on the fence or in the Zionist camp. The people of Saudi Arabia, their eyes are opening to the massive betrayal of the Saudi regime. I get many emails from Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi people are becoming more and more conscious of the situation. The manner to respond is to respond against your own governments, putting pressure on your own governments, that your governments will remain more faithful to the truth, rather than to sit on the fence for purposes of economic prosperity and voting in the United Nations and voting here and there in order to maintain your balance accounts. This is not the way that people should act who have integrity. The way to act to bring pressure upon governments is peaceful protests. The peaceful protests brought down Hosni Mubarak. There may have been Zionist organizations that work in Egypt trying to push the protests, certainly, but it is also an element of spontaneous response from the Egyptian people, which we should not forget. In the same way that the Soviet Union was brought down, the Berlin Wall was brought down by people who are protesting peacefully, massive protests peacefully, and they were able to do so much. In the same way, you can come out and protest against your own governments and do what the Egyptian people did, do what the Tunisian people did, rather than to vent your anger and your rage on the American embassies, which is not going to get you anywhere, and attacking American diplomats, which is shameful and disgraceful and ought to be condemned. We should not do to others what we do not want them to do to our diplomats and our embassies. No. So come out and protest against your own governments. Why are you so much concerned about the Syrian government, calling the Syrian government barbaric, calling the Syrian government dictatorships, when the Syrian government, for whatever evils it may have done, it has stood up against Israel, has stood up against the Zionists. Or what about your Saudi government? What about your Qatari government? What about the Jordanian government? What about all of these governments? What about the Pakistani government, which for 10 years has opened Pakistan's territory for NATO transshipment of supplies and ammunition to kill innocent Afghan people? Is this not shameful conduct on the part of the Pakistan government? Should those Pakistani people who permitted this, government officials who permitted this, should they not be held to account? So come out on the streets and demonstrate peacefully to show your anger and your rage against your own governments, rather than respond to the film by attacking American institutions. No.
You are gifted with insight and guidance. I don't know what to go from here. I thank you. It is overwhelming.
Well, I hope and pray that my assessment is correct, Maurice, that we will not have any wars for the next 2-3 months. I hope and I pray. But we must prepare ourselves either in December or in the early months of next year, that if Romney becomes the president, the American people must know in advance. I hope they listen to me. Romney is going to do what the Zionists want him to do, and what Barack Obama has not been prepared to do so far. Romney will lead the charge against Iran, against Pakistan, against Syria, and in so doing, he's going to make the distinct possibility of nuclear war become an actuality. If nuclear war takes place, it is the first time in human history. It will be the first time in human history that two opposing forces will have attacked each other with nuclear weapons. Never before in human history. If that war were to take place, the American people must know that America's cities and Canadian cities are all going to be destroyed. What is going to be left of the United States and America after such a war will be devastation. Europe is going to face the same fate, because these are nuclear weapons, and these are thousands of nuclear weapons. The world which is going to be left after that nuclear war is a world that the Zionists, who of course will survive nuclear war because they have their underground cities already built, the world that's going to be left after that nuclear war will be a world that Israel can rule over more easily than the world that now exists. So when you go and elect Romney as president, you're preparing the way for the nuclear war that will destroy the United States of America and Canada.
Well, I mean, the elections are fixed. If they want Romney in, Romney will be in.
That's right. And one final comment, if I may, and that is that this is Islamic scholarship offering this kind of analysis. Islamic scholarship could not offer this kind of analysis if Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, was not indeed a true prophet, and if the Quran was not indeed the true word of the one God. So as we move towards Armageddon, it should become more and more clear to people in the Western world that they do need to take another look at the credentials of the man named Muhammad, who says that he is a divinely appointed messenger of the one God. and not some fake, not some false prophet. Take a look once again at the Quran, from which has emerged Islamic eschatology. Who am I to be saying that Israel wants to rule the world? Who am I to be saying that Pax Britannica came into being and was then succeeded by Pax Americana, so that Pax Judaica can conclude the process? Where did I get this knowledge from? And when Israel does become the ruling state in the world tomorrow, over a world which has been devastated by nuclear war, that a man will stand up in Israel and declare that he is the Messiah. So there is a religious factor explaining all that is happening now. When he stands up in Israel and declares, I am the Messiah, we from the world of Islam will look at him in the eye and say to him, no, you're the false Messiah. You're the Dajjal. We know you. And then the true Messiah will come back. We from the world of Islam, we have this belief, based on the Quran and based upon what the Prophet said, that Jesus will return. And when he returns, he's going to put an end to this false Messiah, and he's going to rule the world. This is Islamic eschatology. Truth will now triumph over falsehood and over all rivals, and justice will triumph over all oppression. This is Islamic eschatology, and we would like to commend to our viewing audience that they take a look at the credentials of the Quran and the credentials of the man named Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him. My book entitled Jerusalem in the Quran, can someone hand me a copy, please? My book entitled Jerusalem in the Quran, I would like to offer as a textbook on Islamic eschatology, explaining the subject. Jerusalem in the Quran. I don't know whether you've seen this book, Morris. Are you getting it here?
No. You lift it up, please. Lift the book up. Yes. Yes, we see it very clearly.
Well, send me your mailing address so I can mail you a copy.
It will be a pleasure.
There you are.
So we have our instructions. I'd like to thank you for being inspiring. With all the doom and gloom, there is hope. I think Islam is marvelous. Everything I hear about it. I mean, I should think a lot of people could say that maybe are not followers or believers or practicing Islam. I think the laws make sense.
Well, I'm glad that you responded in this way to my denunciation of those who attacked the American ambassador and killed him. I denounced them in the most powerful language I can possibly denounce as barbaric, and that this is a blemish on the fair face of Islam. It has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. We will escort a foreign ambassador, escort him out of our territory if we do not want him, but we will not harm him. No, once you are a foreign ambassador in our territory, we respect your diplomatic privilege.
Well, karma is not an Islamic concept, or is it?
Pardon me?
Karma?
Oh, karma.
Cause
Karma.
and effect. I mean, these very people that took him out are the people he created, so to speak.
Oh, this is a case of the chickens coming home to roost, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, these are John McCain's boys. John McCain's boys. He's the one who stood with them proudly in Benghazi, I believe. He went to Benghazi and he stood with them. These are his boys. So they created the monster, and the monster then turned upon them. I don't think the monster turned upon them spontaneously at all. I think this was all pre-planned, and the ambassador was lured to Benghazi so that they could attack the embassy with him in the embassy or the consulate. It was all pre-planned so that they could use this to inflame public opinion in the United States and impact upon the presidential elections.
Pretty clever people for calculating. Manipulating us all into war after war. Just
That's
pulling
right.
pulling the strings and owning the media.
That's right.